Welcome to Not Starving Artists, the podcast. I'm Brooke, your host, money coach, and financial cheerleader, here to teach you the money management and mindset strategies of high-earning creatives. I graduated from college broke with a BFA in theater, having constant panic attacks about paying rent. And now, I am a working actor, artist, and business owner in New York City, making a full-time income as a self-employed creative and on track to be a multi-millionaire in retirement, while still enjoying plenty of vacations and happy hour margaritas. So get ready to learn how you, as a self-employed hottie with fluctuating income, can have a relationship with money that feels safe, spacious, and sexy. The best part? No budgeting or bi-weekly paychecks required. Let's dive in. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the podcast. We are on now week 3 of the 6-week series, The High Earning Creative, Money Management and Mindset Strategies for Self-Employed Hotties. Today, we're talking about budgeting. If you've been around here a while, you have heard me talk about budgeting before. If you haven't been around for a while, you need to know right up top that I am an anti-budget money coach, because I, from the depths of my being, believe that budgeting does not work for creatives. I also would venture to say that budgeting does not work for most human beings. I liken budgeting to standardized testing. So when you're in school, right, school is created in a very specific structure. Like we're talking, you go to elementary school, middle school, high school, you're learning, basically memorizing facts, and then you are taking tests to see how well you remember those facts. That's standardized testing. And the stuff that is less about memorizing facts, like if we're talking about English and writing papers, there's very specific structures that you're being tested on. And these structures and these ways of testing, this isn't how the world works. So it's measuring a very specific kind of intelligence, or I wouldn't even say intelligence, a very specific kind of skill set that a very small portion of the population actually is naturally good at. And so when we're talking about standardized testing as a way to decide who's intelligent and decide who gets accolades in school or who gets into the best colleges, we know that that's a fucked system, okay? And so budgeting is similar to that, because budgeting has the same kind of energy. It works for a very specific kind of type A brain. It works for someone who's able to really be on top of it. It works for someone who really thrives in structure. And when I say thrives in structure, because I'm going to talk about how budgeting ruined my mental health, because sometimes thriving in structure is actually not thriving. It's becoming obsessive because of how your brain works. Like if you have any type of OCD or compulsive thinking, any type of anxiety, it can feel really good to be in a budget, but you're actually white knuckling. You're actually anxious all of the time. And so when I say a very specific type of person who loves a very specific type of structure, that's what I'm talking about. The percentage of people who can actually derive joy from traditional budgeting methods is a very small portion of the population. So when we're talking about artists, when we're talking about people who are self-employed, when we are talking about you who has fluctuating income, even if you do have consistent income, I actually, like 50% of my clients do have some sort of bi-weekly paycheck, even if it's not their full-time income. Some of them it is, and some of them it's just like an additional bi-weekly paycheck as a survival job or a parallel career. Even when it comes to consistent paychecks, when it comes to budgeting, if you don't have the type of brain that enjoys that kind of structure, budgeting is always going to feel like something you have to do. It's always going to breed avoidance. And so I'm talking a lot about the emotional element and also the implementation element here of actually being able to follow through on a financial plan, and also how does it feel to follow through on a financial plan. But there's also the other element of just practically, it doesn't work for people who don't have consistent paychecks month to month to month. If your income fluctuates, traditional ways of budgeting, and we can talk about like budgeting methodology, right? Like the zero-based budget and the percentaging out your paycheck, right? Like 50% goes to needs and spending, 30% goes into savings, and 20% goes to like fun spending. We could also talk about specific budgeting apps. I know like YNAB, You Need a Budget. There's a bunch of these other kinds of apps. I don't know a ton of the ones that are hot right now off the top of my head because I don't recommend them, because these apps and methodologies require some sort of consistency month to month to month. And the kind of consistency that these apps and methodologies are requiring of you is not only you bring in the same amount every single month no matter what, but also the kind of consistency that it requires from your spending is you're going to spend the same amount on the same types of things month after month after month. And this is where we get into a broader conversation where we're not just talking about artists, creatives, people who are self-employed, people who own their own businesses, who have income fluctuation. Now we're just talking about human beings living life, because you're not going to be spending the same kind of way every single month. Traditional budgeting methods don't allow for freedom and flexibility within the month of how you decide to spend your money, because there are going to be months where you do not have an ounce of energy to cook for yourself and get groceries. So you are going to be eating out a lot more. There might be months where you're traveling a lot. Last month I was out of town for a big chunk of the month, and my commuter expenses went way down, but my eating out went way up. But I wasn't buying as much groceries because I was out of town a lot. So there's a lot of flexibility there, where in a month like this month, I'm on the train every single day, multiple times a day, and I am getting a lot of groceries. I'm not doing a lot of eating out, but I don't have travel expenses. So the categories are different, and how I'm spending is different, and how you are spending month to month to month is going to be different. But traditional budgeting methods kind of force you into these boxes of, here's the normal amount, hard quotes if you're not watching on YouTube, the normal amount to spend on takeout. And if you're spending more on takeout this month than you did last month, we're flagging it. I'm talking like as I'm a budgeting app, because that's what they do. They'll notify you. I'm pointing like at my Apple Watch, right? Like if you look at your Apple Watch and it's like spending more this month, watch out. So there's this policing of your money that these kinds of budgets force into your brain of, it's bad if I'm spending more in this category. Me not being able to have like dollar for dollar consistency is bad. And that's what, even if that's not the original intent of these kinds of budgeting methods, that's what it ends up breeding in us, those of us who were not built to thrive inside of those types of structures. And so what happens when you feel guilt, when you're like, oh, I'm spending more than I should this month, or I'm spending more in this category than I should be, or oh my gosh, my income fluctuated this month, and so when I do my percentages, now I don't have enough to spend on, it's Pride weekend, and so I was gonna like take that money and do a bunch of fun stuff with Pride, and so now I don't have that money available, and so like, oh fuck, what do I do? And so you have these feelings, and then you basically give yourself two options. The first option is, okay, well, my budget tells me I gotta button up and get my shit together, and I'm not allowed to spend anymore. So you push yourself into no fun so that you can keep numbers in your bank account that you like, or like adhere and be strict with your budget. Or you say, fuck it, this month is a wash, I can't do this, or I don't want to do this, and you go into avoidance and you shut down. You do a fuck it blackout, or you say, I'll start over next week, I'll start over next month, or even I'll start over tomorrow. Fuck it, I'll just ball out, I'll just Apple Pay and a dream my way throughout the city for the rest of this afternoon and figure it out tomorrow. When you only give yourself those two options, you fucked yourself with your money, because you either have to choose between fun or numbers you like in the bank account. And that's a horrible thing to have to choose between. That's a real Sophie's choice, baby. So you need to give yourself another way to manage your money that doesn't create that weird choice that you have to make. That doesn't inherently breed guilt and shame and feeling bad about your human life fluctuating as it does month to month, quarter to quarter, and your income fluctuating if you're self-employed, if you have a business, if you're a freelancer. Because that's then going to create a weird energy in your relationship with your career path that you've chosen, because you feel like your income is less stable and less good, and the only way you'll be able to have financial wellness is if you create more income consistency. And that's not necessarily where your energy needs to be. You just need to figure out how to manage the inconsistency to create stability in your life. We're going to talk about that a little bit more in future episodes, because I really want to focus on budgeting and what to do instead today. So I want to talk to those of you who are listening who you can lock in. When you create a budget, when you whip out a spreadsheet, when you put yourself on a plan, you can lock in. You can make it happen. You can force yourself to adhere to whatever protocol you've given to yourself. And if this is you, and even if you sometimes fall off the wagon, again, hard quotes here, but you fall off the wagon, but you're always able to get back on and kind of get your shit together. If you're that kind of person, but you still have never really felt ease around your money, this is for you. Because I'm going to venture that budgeting and spreadsheeting and playing inside of your numbers is actually the culprit for your anxiety. Now, I see this with a lot of my clients, and I'm going to talk about how this showed up for me as well. When I was first on my financial wellness journey, the first step, and this is always a great first step, I think, is, okay, I just need to really get in the weeds with my money and with my numbers and with my spending. And so that's what I focused on first. I, of course, focused on the practical, the tactical. What am I spending? I want to save as much as I can because I'm an artist and I know that I want money in the bank because who knows when I'm going to get my next gig. So that was my focus. And so I was trying to find a picture. I don't have the journal anymore, but I used to keep this journal where I would manually track every single dollar that I spent, down to the literal dollars, where I would be $1.02 popcorn, $2.12 Diet Coke, those sorts of things. So I kept real strict track of my money. I had a spreadsheet. I was looking at my bank accounts probably every single day. I was categorizing. I tried out some apps for a while. And so I really felt like I'm really getting my shit together. I had always been aware of my money, but this was I was really locking in post-college. And so through this process, I was able to save money. I've talked about it before. I was able to save $23,000 post-graduating, and I was still really anxious and panicked about money. So I was able to use the system, the budgeting, the spreadsheets, the tracking every dollar, and the categorization to be able to save a really good chunk of money that should have given me safety. And yet, I was still having panic attacks about, oh no, am I going to be able to pay my rent? Oh no, I'm really scared to pay my rent. Even though I saw $23,000 in my bank account, and yet I was paying $700 for a sublet at that time per month. So I had so many months of rent ahead of me, and I was still so scared. And so when I would spend, I always had a fear around spending. It was hard for me to indulge. It was really hard for me, when I would go out with friends for a drink or for a meal, and it was more expensive than I expected it to be. I would panic. And the internal state, my nervous system, I would get so stressed over needing to control every single dollar. It didn't feel like I could waste a penny or let a penny out of my sight that I wasn't fully okay with or fully planning on for a week in advance. It was that kind of energy. Oh my God, I'm feeling it in my body as I'm talking about it here. So what I realized in this moment was, wow, I'm able to save money and I'm doing the good things with money and I'm understanding my numbers. I'm doing all of the responsible good things. And if I'm doing that, I should be feeling better. I should not be anxious. I should not be having panic attacks about money. I've been able to even earn some more money and have some more flexibility. So why am I not feeling good spending that on stuff that makes me like happy and brings me joy, there was this real disconnect. And what I realized was that, yes, it was a mental, I knew it was a mindset thing. I knew it was an emotional thing. But the actual solution to it was, how I'm managing my money is actually breeding this anxiety. It's breeding this white knuckle energy, this clenching energy, this terror that if I even let the numbers out of my sight for more than 24 hours, they're going to change. If I'm not writing down every single dollar that's leaving, I'm going to go off the rails. If I don't have a spreadsheet showing me all of my different income and spending and like categorizing, and if I'm not constantly crunching numbers, I don't know what's going to happen. Oh no. So it was the actual way that I was managing my money that was causing the anxiety. Because it was doing a fine job putting the money in my bank account and like getting my money shit together, sure. But the whole point of me getting my money shit together was so I could feel better, so I could feel more ease. And I wasn't feeling more ease. So I want to ask you, is this resonating? Is this you? Where you have your spreadsheet, you're looking at your numbers all of the time, you're crunching numbers all of the time. This is the thing that I find with a lot of my clients. There's a fixation of crunching numbers. Like, we'll have crunched the numbers 2 weeks back, and then they'll come to a call being like, I crunched the numbers again. And they come with the same findings. And it's like, okay, we did that 2 weeks ago. Tell me why you felt like you needed to crunch the numbers again. And it's usually because a new form of anxiety came up, or, something happened with a launch, or something happened with a potential gig that they thought that was coming in, or, their mom said something to them that like really threw them off and made them panic about like the plan they had set themselves on. So the fixating on crunching the numbers and looking at the spreadsheet or tracking the spending, those sorts of things, I want you to note that that is a symptom of another kind of anxiety, because you only ever need to like crunch the numbers one time a month. Look at the numbers, like if we're talking reoccurring revenue or like launch goals or like your yearly income desires and income goals. Those sort of things, they only need to be crunched once a month, once a quarter, or like at a yearly retrospective. Okay? So any more than that, I want you to notice that that's a symptom of something else, right? That probably means that there's anxiety living somewhere else, or your money management system is forcing you into having to be aware all of the time, forcing you into thoughts of, if I don't check, SOS, something's gonna go wrong. The other thing I wanna say here is that budgeting is theory, okay? Budgeting is theory. Budgeting happens in a spreadsheet. Budgeting happens in an external app. Budgeting happens in your notes app when you're deciding how much you're able to spend over the next few months if you want to pay down your debt and put this much. It's all theory because it's outside of your bank accounts. And then you're planning to spend in alignment with the theory. And then at the end of the month, you're like, why don't my numbers look how I want them to? Or human behavior comes into play and the theory goes out the fucking window. I have a lot of really interesting conversations with my dad about this because he works in agricultural marketing in that world. And he talks about and works on like economic theory all the time and talking about trends and prediction markets and things like that. And so we talk about there's different schools of thoughts with economists, where there's economists who look strictly at the numbers and what the numbers should do, right? And the projection of just focusing on numbers. And then there are behavioral economics, which is adding in the human behavior element that is not always as predictable or is a little bit different than what the numbers should say. When you add human nuance and weird brains and like group dynamics, group think, when you add all of that in, it sways things. It creates some stuff that maybe a spreadsheet or a graph can't necessarily take into consideration. And so this is the same with how you manage your money. There's a lot of really great numbers and math and equations that you can put in a spreadsheet, that you can put on a piece of paper, and it looks real pretty, and it's like a nice little bow on a perfect little present, and it looks real good. And you're like, if I can do exactly that everything's going to be good. But then what happens, you get into your month and all of a sudden your manager says some shit that throws you off, and you and all of your coworkers want to go blow off steam after work and you've had a really long day. Or, you know, your favorite artist drops a last minute concert, like a pop-up concert, and tickets are like $150 that you weren't planning on spending this month, but like, fuck it, I have to go see this concert because it's fucking pop-up of my favorite person and I want to go see them. Or, you know, you just get into the month and realize that you've accidentally put yourself on a super restrictive ramen diet financially, basically, and it's not sustainable for you, so you just say, fuck it. So all of that theory can go out the window when you don't build in flexibility and freedom, when you don't let yourself be the nuanced human who has human behavior throughout the month that a budget can't necessarily predict for or plan for. And also, the energy around budgeting is restrict. How little can I spend? How little can I get away with spending so that I can save more, pay off more debt, invest more? The energy of budgeting is focused on the savings goals, the investment goals, the debt payoff goals, putting money other places. So with budgeting, it's like spending is the necessary evil. Spending is the thing you have to do. But if you can do as little of it as possible, it's like, ooh, if I cut this, I could do this. Ooh, if I could cut this, I could do this. And so it gives like, I don't, right, in the zeitgeist, like with, and also let me say, there's nothing wrong with using a GLP-1 if it is medically necessary. It is an incredible drug for certain medical interventions. It can work wonders for people who need it. And we have to hold both things at the same time. In the zeitgeist here, we see a lot of people just wasting away, specifically if we're looking at like celebrities and people who are in the spotlight. We just see skin and bones and like this shrinking, this small, this get smaller, do less, eat less, be less, spend less. It's that energy is the same, that energy that can come into your financial life. Right? It's like, and I don't say this lightly, but it can have eating disorder energy. And so when I say how you do one thing is how you do everything, when it comes to how your brain works, you have to be very aware of what your triggers are and very aware of how your brain views the world. And so I have talked with a lot of my clients and worked with a lot of my clients, specifically women, because so many of us have disordered eating patterns or who are currently in the process of healing from disordered eating. Or, you know, even if you haven't struggled with disordered eating, sometimes you just have those thoughts in the back of your head. And so when you have been primed to think about how you can eat less, be less, shrink yourself. When we're talking about money management, I want you to have a money management system where that doesn't even enter the equation. And sometimes with budgeting, and I say this too because I experienced this in my own brain and in my own body. When I was budgeting, it was like, okay, and if I don't spend this, that means I have extra in my spending. I was always looking for the things I could cut back in order to have more in the savings. And so it became, again, this like, how little can I spend? And that is not healthy for our expansion, for us as human beings, for us to feel ease and for us to feel like indulgence and feeling okay spending is so important to our mental health. And so you have to have a money management system that breeds expansion, that breeds relaxation, that breeds flexibility, that breeds freedom. These things aren't necessarily impossible if you are using a traditional budgeting method or if you are using a budgeting app, if you are tracking your spending and categorizing, but it takes a lot more mental energy to keep that energy while you're doing something that is breeding the antithesis of all of that. Because also managing your money is a requirement. right? I want you to understand your numbers. I want you to be able to have fat bank accounts. I want you to be able to have money in the bank and understand your income and your spending and feel really confident in all of that, because I need you to be a sustainable creative. I need you to have longevity in whatever business you've created. I need you to have longevity creating your weird fucking art because our world fucking needs it. Okay? So managing money is not optional. You just need a way that works with your artistic brain, that works with your fluctuating income, works with your mental health, and again, breeds that freedom, breeds that flexibility, and breeds the expansion. So what does that actually look like? This is the money flow method. I created the money flow method for myself at the beginning. This was a need that I found within me of, wow, my mental health is tanking. Wow, I've saved a lot of money and I'm having more panic attacks than ever. Fuck me. If I'm going to be an artist for the long term, I have to figure something out, because me budgeting and tracking like this and white knuckling my money and checking my spreadsheet and my bank accounts every day, multiple times a day, this is not working anymore. So what the money flow method is it's taking your money management theory and putting it straight into your bank accounts. It is a bank account organization system where you have multiple bank accounts. Your money flows through them in a very specific way where it allows you to put your bills on auto pay and then clearly see the rest of the money that you have to spend freely throughout the month. No categorization, no trying to remember how much you need to keep in that account for rent coming in, because that's already taken care of. All of your savings goals and your debt payoff and your investments are already taken care of. So all you have to focus on is this one chunk of money that you get to spend freely throughout the month. You just have to check in on that total balance every couple of days. Like, I'll tell you, as I use the money flow method, I actually have no fucking idea how much I spend on takeout, how much I spend on groceries, how much I spend on entertainment. I have no idea what my numbers are in specific categories, because they also fluctuate wildly month to month to month. At least that's just my inclination. But I do know that I spend between $2,700 and $3,100 a month every single month. I know that. And I know that this month I'm going to be spending $2,800 this month. Like, I know my overall numbers, but I have no idea. I don't need to know any of that other tracking categories, whatever. I can let my body move through the month how I want to move through it spending wise. And this is what the money flow method allows for you to do. And what it also, whenever we implement the money flow method, when I'm first working with a client for the first time, we implement the money flow method within our first couple of calls together. That's the first thing we do, because I want you to have clarity and relaxation around your actual practical money management first before we're doing any mindset work. Because the mindset work that needs to get done, the stuff, a lot of it will get cleared up when you have clarity around your money and when you don't have a complicated system. And then anything that lingers, then that's the real deep work that we do inside of the emotional stuff and the mindset stuff. So we always start with the money flow method. And a lot of people, as they begin to implement it, feel a bit spooked of like, and that's all I have to do right now? Like, I don't have to be checking in on my categories. I don't have to be tracking. Wait, I can let a paycheck come in and like, I don't have to move it immediately. Oh, I just let money accumulate and I just let my spending happen throughout the month. Like, it feels a little spooky to fully like release how tight you have been gripping the wheel. And I'm again telling you this from firsthand experience, and also that plenty of clients who have gone through this experience as well. But it's allowing yourself the ease of, oh, I don't have to manage as hard. Oh, I only have to really worry about one number, and that's the amount that I'm spending each month, like my baseline amount, which we figure all of these numbers out together as well to find numbers that feel good to you. But it can feel a little spooky at first, but it forces your body to have to relax into ease. Because ease around money management can feel very foreign to so many of us who are so used to feeling anxious about money. And so this system why the money flow method is so important is because it actually forces you to have to do that. Like, you're not just doing the mental work while checking your bank accounts every day. It actually forces you to release it, but your money is being taken care of for you. So after you do this process for a few months, you start to show your body, you start to give yourself evidence that, okay, I can actually feel more ease and manage my money less, and my bank accounts grow just as much, if not more. Oh, wow, I actually do not have to track my spending and I didn't go off the rails. Wow, interesting. So it takes a minute for your nervous system to calibrate to that ease, but that's why the system's important, right? Because it forces you into that without you just having to like sit in your journal all the time talking about how you need to get less anxious and how to do that, but then you're checking your bank account 3 times a day to see if the numbers have shifted. The other thing about the money flow method is that it is way more focused on expansion and surplus and bringing in more money than it is about cutting back spending. Because as I'm working with private clients on what their baseline number is, right, what their spending amount is for month to month to month, as you're stress testing those numbers, it is very clear if there's a number that is too restrictive, and so we have to increase it a little bit. We're focusing on what is a sustainable spending number, not what's the least you could spend possible. What is a sustainable spending number that feels really good to you, that also allows you a little bit of flexibility with the current income margins that you're sitting in right now. And then we don't focus on that number anymore. There's not, okay, and then next month, let's cut a little bit more. And next month, let's cut a little bit more. No, that's your baseline. That is the number. We're not going less than that. So if you want more in the savings, if you want higher or quicker debt payoff, if you want more in the investments, the focus then is bringing in more, creating a surplus, because we're focusing on the sustainable amount of spending first. We literally put that into a bank account or onto a credit card, basically, for those of you who use credit cards. We put that number in a safe place for you to spend it freely. And it's not about how much less can I spend? Can I decrease this number? Can I decrease this number? What the money flow method allows for you then is to watch your income accumulate throughout the month in a separate bank account. And you can see that number accumulate. And then whatever's extra after you set yourself up for the month ahead from that bank account, then that surplus gets to go towards savings and investments and debt payoff, right? The surplus then feels really exciting because then it trains your brain to be looking for surplus, to be looking for more ways to bring in more money rather than looking for ways to cut back. Right? Again, it's focusing on your expansion. This is also a money management system that can withstand some avoidance or can withstand life happening. So, I have a couple of clients who have depression and anxiety. And so if they wake up in a really depressive episode one day, their money management system doesn't come crashing down if they need to get themselves, Uber Eats that they weren't planning on getting. It doesn't come crashing down if they're not able to check their bank accounts that week. I have a past client who she had a baby during she was pregnant, right? And so she would get morning sickness or have a really hard day because she also had other kids. And so the money management system doesn't fall apart if she's not able to clock into her spreadsheet and check in on her budgeting app, right? It was able to withstand the craziness of life of birthing a third child, right? You need something that's going to be able to withstand that. Or if you're just having a moment where you're feeling avoidant, maybe, the state of the world has kind of put you on your ass a little bit and you don't really want to look at your computer and it's all you can do just to clock in, clock out, or show up to rehearsal and leave and not think about anything else, it can withstand a little bit of that, right? It has that, how airplanes are built for turbulence? They're built to withstand being hit by lightning or inside of a storm. The money flow method is built to withstand that because we can't just pretend that storms don't happen. We can't pretend that turbulence doesn't happen. We have to build for that. We have to plan for that. And that's what the money flow method does. I also I had a client who she has ADHD, and when her Adderall prescription, there was that Adderall shortage that happened, I think a year ago, 2 years ago, and she couldn't get her prescription filled. And So her brain was obviously not working how it normally could. And so with that, if she had to update a spreadsheet or focus on tracking her spending, right? If she had to do traditional budgeting methods, her entire money management system would have fallen apart that month. And she would have had to do a lot of cleanup energy. But she was able to not only she avoided, her money for a little bit just because that's how her brain needed to process what was happening with her medication, but also the money flow method is so simple, it didn't require any of that meticulous management, that even without her Adderall, she was able to still manage her money. If this is resonating with you, I would love to work with you inside of one-on-one coaching. Like I said before, in our first couple of calls together, we're going to set up this cash flow system for you, and we can personalize it to however your lifestyle requires it to. I've shared this example before, but I had a client who her landlord would only take physical checks, and then he wouldn't cash them. Like sometimes he would cash 3 at a time, or sometimes he wouldn't cash them for 3 months. And so that always gave her financial insecurity of oh my God, when are these checks going to hit? And money's piling up, but I need to remember how many checks. So we were able to create a separate arm of the money flow where just the rent checks would go and the rent money would go. So it was separate so she could have ease whenever she wrote her check, and then her landlord could do his crazy inconsistent shit with when he would cash them. So it didn't affect her ease around her money. So we're able to do things like that as well. And if you own your own business, if you have a separate entity for business finances, we create a money flow method for your business finances as well as for your personal finances. And then as we move forward in the rest of our coaching package, it's a 12-week program. We start with creating your money flow. And then as we move forward, we have specific goals that we've decided on for you. We pick your top 3 that you'd like accomplished in our first 3 months together. And I'm going to give you the action plans, basically the financial roadmap to get you to hitting those 3 goals. So then that's the rest of our time together. We are working towards those next 3 goals. And then of course, mindset stuff is going to come out. You're going to maybe experience some avoidance. You're going to have some guilt come up. You're going to feel unworthy. Then we work on all of that. And during our weekly coaching calls, we go really deep and get at those root causes, those root mindset blocks, and start to unlearn them, rewrite them, so that you can move forward, not only feeling at ease in your brain, but also continuing to implement the action plans we've got together with ease. So if you're interested in that, you can book a sales call with me. The link is in the show notes for you to book the sales call, but then there's also a link if you want to hear from past clients. I have a ton of episodes with past clients on the podcast that you can listen to, and other details and logistics about what the one-on-one coaching package entails. So what I want to leave you with today is that if you have tried budgeting before, if you've tried getting your money shit together before and you just haven't been able to find something that sticks, or you have been forcing yourself to stick to something that just is, you're still anxious about it, right? You haven't been able to really clock into that financial ease, or you felt that your lifestyle as a freelancer, as a business owner, as a creative, even as someone with ADHD or who's neurodivergent, if you feel like you just haven't tried because there's no way you'd be able to do the money stuff because that's for other people who function differently, who have a different kind of lifestyle, who have a consistent paycheck, I just want you to know that that's not true. And that the traditional money advice is not working for you because it wasn't made with you in mind. It wasn't crafted for you. So it doesn't mean that you're not wildly capable of having financial wellness, experiencing abundance, experiencing financial safety. You are wildly capable. You just need the right system. You just need the right structure. You need one that was built by a creative for creatives with your kind of lifestyle. Thank you so much for tuning in. If you want to become the financially confident CEO of your life and career, you can learn more about private coaching with me by heading to notstarvingartist.com and clicking on the one-on-one money mentorship page, or hit the link in the show notes. You can also grab my self-study online course, Cashed Up Creatives, which is the full financial curriculum that you were never given in college. You get the first module totally free, so click the link below and you can start learning today. For all workshop and speaking engagement inquiries, send a message to support@notstarvingartist.com. And as always, if you loved this episode, please like, comment, review, send it to a friend, and I will see you next week.